Good morning, students. So we have been looking into the chapter of manufacturing industries, and we have been looking into certain topics of this chapter. And we had started with the classification of industries, and we were in the middle of it. Now, before we get into today's session, it is important that what we had deduced by the fact that every country would be having its different kinds of materials, that some of them would be gifted by nature, some of it would be man-made in the sense that certain people would have certain kinds of skills. Like we know that Germans are amazing with metals, they are very good engineers, and the same with Italians who are very good at these things, right? Like Japanese, they have their own strengths, and the people in Latin America would be having their own strength. They would be amazing with farming and those kind of things. So different societies, different countries know what best to be done with the gifts of nature that has been given to them. So let's go to according to their main role, and that's how different industries come up around those societies and those countries. Now, according to the main role, basic or key industries, that is what we are talking about is here. Basic or key industries are those which supply their products as raw materials to manufacture other goods, example iron and steel and copper smelting, aluminium smelting. Since you're in class 10, I'm sure you must have studied either in class 9 or probably in class 10 in chemistry what is the process of smelting. In simple words, I'm sure you are aware smelting is nothing but the heating of the ore to extract the base metal, right? No surprises there. So this is one of the very major activities, and that is what is involved in manufacturing when you talk about particularly the extraction of metals. So coming to the next one, that is consumer industries that produce goods for direct use by the consumers. That is sugar, toothpaste, paper, sewing machines, fans, etc., etc., etc. Guys, you have to understand what just right now. If you have aluminium, if I give you sheets and sheets of aluminium, if I give you sheets and sheets of copper, what are you going to do with it? You have no idea what to do with it, right? So these things, these metals are converted into something which you can put to direct use. It's as simple as that, right? Now, if you, for example, let's take your automobile for, or your car, or anything for that matter. Now, if all of that is given to you as a scrap, what is it of any use to you? Clearly not. If I give you a tire, if I give you, no, it's of no use to you at all. But once they are assembled with a purpose, meant to do certain things, then you suddenly find that it is something which has a great utility, which you can use it, for your own benefit, and that is what it is about. The whole manufacturing thing is about that, something which the consumer or the market in the end can use it directly, rather than like for example crude oil. We know petrol, diesel, all of that, but you do not find it in petrol is not found in nature as pure petrol. You cannot find diesel in nature at all. You would just find crude oil, right? You would just find crude oil from which you have to get into the process of, as you know it, you've studied again in chemistry, distillation. It could be fractional distillation, it could be anything. You have a method of extracting, and that's how you extract diesel, that's how you would extract kerosene, petrol, then aviation fuel, petroleum jelly, all of that in different with the same crude oil. These things are not found in nature just like that. So that is what they are talking about, and then it is done on the mass scale, and you just go to the petrol pump and you command the filling guy, bhaiya tanki full kar do or bhaiya 5 liter de do, whatever it is. So on the basis of ownership, public sector owned and operated by government agencies, BHEL, SAIL, etc. BHEL, that is Bharat Heavy Earth Movers Limited, SAIL, all of us know Steel Authority of India Limited, private sector industries owned and operated by individuals or a group of individuals, Tisco, Bajaj Auto, etc., Dabur Industries, joint sector industries which are jointly run by state and individuals or a group of individuals. Oil India Limited is jointly owned by public and private sector. That is, certain sector of I'm sorry, certain part of the financing is done by the government sector, and certain part is done by the private sector. Sometimes what happens is the government invests money, and the manpower is privately owned. It could be privately owned or vice versa. Or it is also possible that a certain amount of finance is being brought by the public sector, that is the government, and some amount of investment is also done by the private sector, and then they run it together. But then, it is very difficult to run such operations, because after 5, 6, or 7 years, differences of opinion definitely come up, and the decision making gets very slow. And that is why people usually do not opt for such an arrangement, because the decision making process, the employment, the how to recruit people, all this kind of takes a lot of time to really materialize, and people find it very difficult to iron their differences, where the public sector guy, the government, would be having their own opinion about certain things, like probably expansion, or probably about if they want to open up a new factory and things like that. And the private guy, the guy who has brought his own personal investment, he probably would be having his own opinion about investment or expansion or anything. So these things, of course, they look good on paper about the private and the public cooperation, but usually they are very difficult to operate on a longer scale. Now, cooperative sector industries are owned and operated by the producers or suppliers of raw materials, workers, or both. They pool in the resources and share the profits or losses proportionately. Such examples of the are sugar industry in Maharashtra, the coir industry in Kerala. Coir, students, you have to understand, it is essentially nothing but the fiber of the coconut. Okay, and Kerala happens to be very rich in coconut trees, so naturally it is very easy to get it from there. So the other thing, cooperatives happen to be quite popular in a country like India, because you have to understand that India is not yet a very rich country. We are not a very developed economy. So, and we have a huge number of villages, where still about 40 to 50% of our Indian population lives in villages, and the rural areas. And even if you do not call them rural areas, but then they definitely are not towns and cities. Okay, so but they do need, they also have their dreams, they also have their aspirations to succeed in life, earn more money. So definitely what they do is, in those areas, they pool in their resources, whatever they are good at, or whatever nature has blessed them with. In certain areas, like example you saw here in Maharashtra, because the if you because you would have probably because they happen to be part of Deccan Plateau, which is very rich in black soil, and black soil definitely helps in the growth of sugarcane. And Maharashtra happens to be the largest manufacturer of sugar in India, and there most of it is, at least the farming part, is definitely through cooperatives. And similarly, as they mentioned in Kerala, and one thing which is very important is something that we are all aware of. It is in the tables of all of us. That is Amul. In one way or the other, whether it is butter or whether it is cheese, whichever way you talk about. But you have to understand that Amul happens to also to be a cooperative, which started in 70s by the farmers, in the poor farmers, in fact, in Gujarat, who wanted just to increase their income, from the milk manufacturing and the milk production, that the cows that they had. They just wanted to pool in their resources and start something. They started, every day they started collecting in the milk, and then they came up with, they started making and manufacturing dairy products out of it. And today, just look at Amul. It is one of the largest successful cooperatives in the world, not just in India. Okay, so this is how the world works. That is the world of cooperative industries. But then, yes, again, it is not very easy to, where you have again thousands and thousands of people who are involved in a cooperative to really do it in a very streamlined fashion, and to do it coherently, and keep everyone together and then reach your goal. These are very, very challenging assignments, students. They are never easy. Now, based on the bulk and weight of raw material and finished goods, heavy industries such as iron and steel, light industries such as light raw materials, and produce light goods such as electric good industries, students, not very difficult. Agro-based industries in a country like India, students, this is very, very important, which is here agro-based industries. Cotton, jute, silk, woolen textiles, sugar and edible oil, etc. Industries that are based on agricultural raw materials. Not much to explain here. I'm sure you are aware already. Now, look at this diagram here. uh, okay, fiber production, then it goes into spinning, then weaving and knitting, and dyeing and furnishing, and garment manufacture. So ultimately this is just showing you the chain of manufacturing, how from raw materials, ultimately you have the finished product, and which really goes into the market, and that is how you make money, or the factories make money. The textile industry, we all know it happens to be not just one of the very, very important industries, but you also have to understand that textile industry happens to be, as an industry, it was one of the first when the industrial revolutions started in India, and not just in India, even in England, when the industrial revolution started in 17th century. The first choice was textile industry, because naturally we all have to clothe ourselves, we all have to cover ourselves, right? So that is something which is very natural for us, and which is obvious for us. Everyone, whether rich or poor, or very poor or very rich, we all have to cover ourselves, and we do need clothes. Okay, so textile industry was naturally the first choice when the industrial revolution happened. So the textile industry occupies a unique position in the Indian economy because it contributes significantly to industrial production, employment generation, and foreign exchange earnings. It is the only industry in the country which is self-reliant and complete in the value chain, that is, from raw material to the highest value added products. Essentially, students, what this paragraph means is uh, uh, we are in a position to service the market end to end. That's what it means, that the complete value chain, we are able to take care, to take care of the complete value chain, right from the production of cotton, when it is there in the plants, that is when you find in the cash crops. The cotton happens to be a very important cash crop of India, when the cotton is grown in the fields, right from there to how it is taken and harvested and taken to the factory and produced into yarns, and all that kind of production, right to the extent of when the cloth is produced, and even to the extent of whether it is produced in loose, or whether you convert it into garments, shirts, trousers, whatever you wish, like saris, whatever it is. And ultimately it goes out of the factories, goes to the market. So everything end to end, and you finally make your purchase, whether you go to the normal shop, whether you go to the mall. So ultimately it is end to end production, and textile happens to be one of those very, very unique industries in India, which you are in a position to do an end-to-end servicing. Okay, in terms of large scale, and the amount of enormous, and the amount of people that it employs, and the enormous contribution it makes in the economy. Thank you.